how to conquer your fear, especially your public speaking. The next, we have an educational session going to be delivered by a wonderful trainer, fellow trainer in the same fraternity where I am. I really admire his humor. He's graduated from NAST, working in Counseling Pro as a trainer. So put your hands together for amazing speaker, Toastmaster Hassan. Educational session, the time is about 10 to 15 minutes?
8 to 12. 8 to 12 minutes.
Controlling your fear. Controlling your fear.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Toastmaster Osman Gulzari, for a wonderful introduction. Now, what do you call a person who has absolutely no fear at all? A dead person.
Wow.
At least in our physical dimension. We don't know what might be going on with him in afterlife, depending on your belief. But if you are a person who has absolutely no fear at all, you better call yourself a dead person. From the very first memory you had as a child to the time when you'll be on your deathbed, this is going to be the only constant in your ever-changing life, my friends, fear. Can we escape that? Yes. How can we escape that? By just finishing ourselves. There'll be no fear at all. Your fate has already been ordained by the divine, and whatever is destined for you will be taking place with you. But if we are alive, we better make sure what it really is and how we can actually cope up with these things for the rest of our lives. Now, the research states that around 75% of the people have glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. And it is the number one fear. It comes before the second most dreadful thing people think is that of death. And the third one is the fear of spiders. And I'm really not sure who would be afraid of spiders, by the way, compared to death and all of these things. But 74% people are the ones who really confess that they are afraid of public speaking. The 26% who don't confess it, it's evident from their first speech that they were also afraid. It's just that, they are making things up that we are confident and things like that. So my speech is divided into two parts. At first, I'll be discussing the nature of fear, what fear really stands for, and what is its exact nature. Once we have a good understanding of the nature of the problem, then we'll be able to devise a pragmatic solution to this problem and create a pathway to success for ourselves. Till now, fellow Toastmaster and distinguished guests, we have learned the art of extempore speech. We have learned how to begin our speech effectively. We have also learned how to conclude our speeches effectively. But we won't be able to exercise all of these techniques if we don't get hold of our nerves. If fear takes the best of us, none of us will be able to do what we have learned so far. So this is something really, really important. Now coming to the first part, what does this word fear stand for? Do we have a marker basically? Can we have one? Okay, thank you. The word fear is abbreviated as false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. And this thing is going to chase you like a shadow. It's no different than a thought that's taking place in your mind, and anxiety that doesn't let you go anywhere. Just remember, when you were a kid, what was the very first thing you were afraid of? Your mom told me, "Beta, udhar na jana, bhau hai," right? And it is only when you grow up you realize what your mom was referring to bhau as was none other than your father, right? So fear starts manifesting itself in different form, in different types. So this is all transient. False evidence appearing real. We are all afraid of public speaking. Do you think I'm not afraid right now? I'm hell afraid right now. Trust me. Trust me, I'm sitting here for the past 1 hour and I'm totally nervous as to how this speech is going to go. But with the passage of time, I have just learned to overcome this fear and control it. once you start your speeches, and this goes for all the new members, you are always afraid. You know, you have so many seasoned Toastmasters in the room. Where do I stand, man? Who am I to put in some extra effort? But trust me, once you pass a certain level, there is a certain expectation associated with you for all the seasoned Toastmasters. And that is something that starts becoming their fear. If you're a seasoned Toastmaster, you'll be like, oh my goodness, I'm here on the stage. My expectation is my fear, right? They'll be like, how come this guy is delivering an absolutely boring and nonsense speech? So the very first thing we need to realize is to understand the nature of the fear. It's nothing different than something that's in your mind. It has captivated you from the time you were born and will held you captivated, and it has built an intangible prison at your mind, the bars of which you cannot see, but you can still know how can you take care of that. So what we have realized is it's just a thought-based phenomena, and how can we actually control that? We just need to realize a very simple and basic fact that our thoughts are the seeds of, you know, whatever is around us in the world. It all starts and stems from the thought. Every action, our external world is a reflection of the thoughts that are taking place in our mind. A thought, if nurtured well enough, turns into an idea. And if you stick to that idea, this idea turns into a plan. You know, I'm going to start doing this. And this applies to whatever positive or negative thing you have done so far in your life. And this plan becomes an action. So as the famous saying goes by the motivational speaker, Mr. Jim Rohn, he says, be careful of your thoughts. Stand guard at the gates of your mind. You can't let any negative thing come in your mind. Don't be afraid of, you know, how many of us actually predict the future to its highest accuracy? None of us really knows that, right? And people are just living in their heads and thinking about things, the problems that don't even exist. I would like to share with you an amazing fact. We start thinking that if we start accumulating different wealth and the world is beneath our feet, then there will be no fear at all, right? Everyone thinks of that, right? Most of the people do. If we have wealth, what are we going to be afraid of? There are a few billionaires in USA who have constructed mansions worth millions of dollars. For what? If there's a nuclear apocalypse in the world, we are going to go 13 stories down deep into the earth, and we are going to start living in this mansion. What if there's a zombie apocalypse? Some crazy billionaires built some zombie apocalypse. For goodness sake, zombies are something that we have actually seen in cartoons. If you were to make a kindergarten kid in front of a screen, he would like, what is this nonsense, zombie? Billionaires spending millions of dollars building a mansion who has big security-based measures, and that's all for zombie apocalypse. Do you really think after accumulating all of these successes and riches, he was able to escape fear? No, fear is always there. If you are a government college student who has never interacted with a beautiful girl, and you went into a university where there are many good-looking pariyan around, right? And you know, these guys have problem greeting them as well. These guys have developed these kind of phobias in themselves as well. Now what's going on in the mind of such a person? He'll be like, okay, I better talk to this girl. He'll approach her and say, excuse me, Baji, extra pen hoga? And in his mind, he'll be thinking, this conversation is going to go like, excuse me, Baji, extra pen hoga? And she'll slap him, patash, and say, bakwas na karo, agle mahine meri shaadi hai. Right? Just creating problems for yourself, and it's not going to get you anywhere. Now that we have an understanding of this fear, that it's no different than a thought, I'm going to discuss a few pragmatic solutions that we can come across. Very simple yet powerful techniques, but we'll keep them limited to the context of public speaking. And this goes for the new members and for the seasoned Toastmaster as well. Because as I've said, fear is for every single one of us, whether you are a new member or an old one or a seasoned one. So there's a very simple formula that goes by the name of EVR. We need to remember that. EVR. If you really want to conquer this fear. Now here the E stands for experimentation. There's a famous coach who has coached different world champion UFC fighters. His name is John Kavanagh. And he teaches his disciple and student a very powerful technique. He says, The only way to become comfortable with what you are uncomfortable is you keep on doing what you're uncomfortable is, or what you're uncomfortable with on a consistent basis. That's it. You start coming here, you start feeling uncomfortable, you start feeling nervous, you start feeling sweaty, your palms are wet, your arms are heavy, things like that start taking place in your mind. And you start doing the things you're uncomfortable till the time you become comfortable. That's when you realize, man, it wasn't that bad, man. It was just in my mind. And fear is just like a fart. If you let it build up in your body, it's going to be painful for you, right? You just need to make sure that you release it without other people realizing that you just released it, right? Now the second powerful technique is visualize. Before facing you guys, I have actually been through this education session before. How? In my mind. That's it. Simple as that. I have faced you guys. I just closed my eyes and just realized that all of you are sitting there. How am I going to perform? And this was a really powerful technique that really helped me develop a session. And I've been practicing this thing over and over again, and I used to think this is one of the most bizarre things that I've ever come across, visualizing things. And trust me, this is by far one of the most powerful techniques that I've ever used. A colleague of mine discussed this with me, and whenever both of us had to go for an important meeting, we used to role play with each other. I used to prepare all the points for our meeting, and I was extremely well prepared for my stance. And this guy would prepare the toughest of all possible questions from me in a serious scenario. And we would do this role play before appearing for that meeting and interview. And he would give me the toughest possible time, believe you me. We would do this drill for 10 to 15 minutes, and trust me, it doesn't matter if we are approaching a company executive or how much I'm scared of the person right now. Once I'm going through this drill, the actual scenario doesn't scare me anymore because I've already been through that. And the last one of them all is, we just need to relax ourselves. We just overlook the fact that our minds and our bodies are interconnected in a great way. The greatest of all motivational speakers, if you were to go through their biographies, you would come to realize that Tony Robbins faces audiences around 20,000, right? Stadiums full of people. Someone who is extremely well known in the world, and he has a ritual to follow as well. He starts jumping and starts shaking his body, doing things like that. And these are the kind of things that really help me relieve my stress as well. Being someone with an MMA background, and this guy really taught me that you just start taking some pendulum steps. You just need to relax up a bit, start doing some shadow boxing, things like that. And this is something that really starts taking stress out of your body and away from your body. You just need to start breathing from your diaphragms and do these little bit of isometric exercises. You might be a crazy moron in the eyes of other people, but trust me, this really works when you really step on the stage as well, right? Now, I believe these techniques are really going to help you conquer your fear for public speaking. And I really suggest every one of you to practice this as much as you can, because we believe that all the trainers and the speakers in the Better Speaker series have some magic pill that these guys will give to you, and you will be, knowing how to conquer this fear of public speaking. This lecture won't do anything to you, right? But this lecture will only be beneficial to you if you start making an action plan now. If you start nourishing the seeds I have sown in your mind right now, and start working on taking care of this fear, then sky is going to be the limit for you. I thank you all.